Hey everybody, Jeff Reinhart here, LMP and Lancaster Online. Welcome in to the Huddle, the other League Football Podcast, the Week 9 edition, sponsored by Auto House of Lancaster. Welcome in, pull up a chair. It's Week 9. The much looking forward to Week 9. We've been waiting patiently for Week 9, and it has arrived, and it's here, and it's glorious, and there's big games all over the place, and there's a lot going on, and the section races are really good, and the playoff races are getting really tight and close, and there's at least 3 games this week that are big boy varsity tackle football games that we will discuss when breaking all these down. 20 games this week, 19 on Friday. There's a Saturday matinee, and there's three non-league games, which is kind of odd for this late in the season. But Reading, Muhlenberg, and Warwick have non-league games this week. Everybody else in section play, with some big games across the board. We've also reached the point of the season where a lot of this is starting to run together. And I try to commit to memory as much of this stuff as I can. And it's just kind of running together at this point. And I have to click back and forth on my computer to this story and that story and those stats and these standings to remember all this stuff. So if I draw a blank in the next several minutes, I apologize. But it's a lot of teams, a lot of games, a lot of kids, a lot of stats. And it's starting to run together a little bit here after 8 weeks and Week 9 on tap. Yellow card this week. Picks are circled. Ready? Let's break it all down. Good stuff. Week 9. First up, Section 1 games, Friday. Hempfield at Cedar Crest. Intriguing game. Both teams inside the bubble for playoff spots. And Hempfield has a losing record. Are they 3-5? But they're still, I think, on the 10 line, which would be the last team in. So the Knights need a fast finish to make districts. Crest is in safely, playing well. Won last week. Isaiah Zimmerman had another big game, rushed for 174. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. They have to stop Hempfield's passing game. I've been writing about this a lot. Catch goes up top a lot with a fun bunch of receivers. Mini playoff game this week. Knights could use it. I have Cedar Crest circled. They're at home. This is their final section game. They have the Cedar Bowl next Thursday against Lebanon. So the Falcons will be going for a fast finish in Section 1. I like them. I have them circled. Let's go Falcons over Knights, and then we'll see what happens to Hempfield after next week if they can make playoffs. McCaskey at Wilson, Bulldogs. Won again last week. They're playing great. They're up to number 2 in the district behind Manheim Township. Just 1 loss, 6 wins in a row for the Bulldogs. Just playing great. Tons of balance. D has been good. Running the ball, throwing the ball. They're just having a good all-around Wilson kind of a season. McCaskey struggling. What have they lost? 5 in a row? We'll see if Jalen Cintron, their really good quarterback, he's been up and down with injuries this year. We'll see if he's back behind center. But I love the Bulldogs here. They're just playing great. And, by the way, next week they're at Township in Week 10. So they do not want to get caught looking ahead here. I don't think they will. Wilson over McCaskey. Penn Manor at Manheim Township. Streaks, 18 regular season wins in a row. They'll go for 19 here against the Comets. Township's number 1 in District 3, 6A, close to clinching the 1 seed. Yes, they have Wilson next week. Tons of balance. Clancy rushed for 150 last week. Weiser's been really good throwing the ball. Lex Haberbosch is averaging like 24 yards a catch. Township has been Township. And they have kept on keeping on here. They've taken a couple of punches here and there, but they've been really good. Penn Manor, looking for it. Wilson really took it to them last week. Penn Manor had negative yardage and 0 first downs. And it was a mercy rule shutout. So Comets looking for it. And now they get Manheim Township, which is ranked in the state and undefeated and playing great. I'll go Streaks. Township over Penn Manor. Section 2. Conestoga Valley, 8-0 at Exeter, 8-0. Hello. We had an inkling in August that this game might be for all the marbles, so to speak, and it looks like it is. Bucks and Eagles, both undefeated, both playing great, both great offenses, both great defenses, both have playmakers. The Zandier kid is having an amazing season for Exeter. And he's played behind center the last couple of weeks. Riley Martinez, their really good quarterback, who has not thrown a pick. He's missed some time here with an ankle, I think I read. Didn't play last week. Zandier took the snaps. I think he has a touchdown pass, 17 touchdown runs, 1,000 yards rushing, and limited touches, 15 yards per rush. He's been great. Jaden Johnson back on the field last week for CV. He had missed pretty much 4 games, but he's back and rounding into shape. Weapons galore in this game. I could go on and on and on. Winner gets sole possession of first and then clinches outright with a win in Week 10. Loser needs a win in Week 10 and for the other one to lose to get a tie. Basically, the winner here is in the driver's seat for an outright crown. I have Exeter circled. I did pick them in August to win it. Here they are. And they're at home. This one could be really good. I'll go Eagles over Bucks. Enjoy that game. E-Town at Governor Mifflin. E-Town had a couple of wins in a row, and then they were shut out last week. Was it CV? I told you. My memory's slipping here, gang. I think it was the Bucks who beat them last week, 42 zips. E-Town looking for it again. Mifflin's just been so good running the ball, and the Garner kids over 1,000. Reese Hull had a big game last week. Pick 6 on D and a 94-yard touchdown catch. That'll work. I'll go Mustangs here. They're at number 9 in 6A, so they're under the bubble, but they want to stay there. A win here would help. Mifflin over E-Town. Ephrata at Lebanon. Mounts snapped back last week, needed one and got it. 32-0 over Muhlenberg. So the D played well. Offense spread it around. And, got some touchdowns and played well. So much needed win for Ephrata. Mounts are still 2 spots out for districts, so they need a win. Lebanon, and I wrote this week, Lebanon has been better. I know the losing streak is at 40 and they're over, but if you just look at the stats from week 1 through 8, they have gotten better. Castro's over 1,000 passing yards, and this Bridell kid, 22 yards a catch, 700 receiving yards, 7 touchdown catches. They've done some things. They took E-Town to the wire in a shoulda, coulda, and they've been in some games. So Lebanon's been better. They're at home. But I got the Mount circled here. I think Ephrata sniffs playoffs, needs help, but has to win. And I think they do. Ephrata over Lebanon. Section 3, Friday night. Conrad Weiser at Cocalico. Hello. Weiser undefeated. Scouts 8-0. This is their last section game. They have a non-league in Week 10. So here's the scenario. Cocalico and Weiser are tied. They both have 0 losses. Weiser's played 1 more section game. If Weiser wins, Scouts win Section 3 because nobody could catch them at undefeated. Cocalico, if they win, they take over sole possession of first. They'd get a tie for the title, and they would need to beat Fleetwood in Week 10 to clinch it outright. So a lot riding here. I guess the simplest scenario is if Weiser wins, they win Section 3. Saw Cocalico last week. They look a heck of a lot more like Cocalico. They were 1 and 2, searching, looking for it. They have found it. They look like the Eagles again. Josh Meyer directing traffic. He rushed for 100. Dane Horning rushed for 100. And Epinette rushed for 100 last week against Cocalico. And Epinette was 195 with a 62-yard touchdown run. And Meyer had a 76-yard touchdown run. Bollinger is back, wreaking havoc on defense. He was in the backfield the whole night. He had a sack. Cocalico looks like Cocalico again. I have the Eagles circled. Can the Scouts win this sucker, run the table, and win Section 3? Absolutely. They've been so good. But Cocalico seems to be Cocalico again. I like their big game pedigree. I like the way they're going. And they're at home. This one could be a war rock fight. But I'll go Eagles over Scouts, and I will see you Friday in Denver. Fleetwood at Solanco. Saw Solanco last week. Lost to Cocalico, yes. I'm telling you right now, file this away for a rainy day. Mules are going to be trouble for the next couple of years. They have at least 3 sophomores up front, and all of their skill kids are back. Garcia, 1,000-yard rusher's back. This Bard kid is a freshman. Burgos Wise is a heck of a playmaker, jitterbug scatback kid. Chase Sensenig played quarterback against Cocalico. He was good. Solanco's going to be trouble for years to come, kind of out of this race and kind of out of the playoff picture, but they want to finish strong because they're going to be good down the road. Wink, wink. Fleetwood, love their weapons. The McMonigal kid is over 1,000 passing yards in like 3 weeks. McFarland's been really good. Dominic's been really good. They fall to Manheim Central last week. Barons held that one off, 28-26. Fleetwood's got to go down to Quarryville here. And I just really like the way Solanco can move the ball with these youngsters in the backfield. So I have Solanco circled. I'll go Mules at home. Solanco over Fleetwood. Garden Spot at Manheim Central. Garden Spot back on the field. They were off last week, remember? Couple of weeks since Sparty Nation's been on the field. They'll be back here against the Barons. I didn't realize this until I looked. Central leads this series 35-1-1. Garden Spot's only beat them once, and it was in 2014, I want to say. They beat them in the regular season, and then Central rolled them in the playoffs, put 72 up on them in the District 3 playoffs. So just one win in the series for Garden Spot. Anxious to see if there's rust, having not played in 2 weeks. Anxious to see if A.J. Hurst is back. He hasn't played in like 3 weeks now. We'll see if he's back behind center. They could use him. Barons coming off a win. They needed that. Exhale, Manheim. They had lost 3 in a row. They got out of the basement in Section 3. Got a couple of defensive scores. They had a pick 6. They had a fumble return last week. Picked up a much-needed win over Fleetwood. I have Central circled here. Garden Spot out-stats them here. But Garden Spot hasn't played in 2 weeks. I don't know what the quarterback situation is. Barons have some Mo. They're at Eldon Ratu. And they've only lost to Garden Spot once since 1951. Central over Garden Spot. Section 4. Interesting games. YO at Octorara. Spartans beat Twin Valley last week. Berks County Game of the Year. YO wins 34-24. Justice Hardy have a game. Rushed for 196. Caught 2 passes for 101. 297 yards from scrimmage. Single game program record. That'll work. A couple touchdowns. YO wins. You just keep talking about Twin Valley. I could just see the guys at YO the first 8 weeks. Just keep talking about Twin Valley. We'll play. We'll be there. We'll show up week 8. Don't worry. Boom. Spartans win. So they knocked Twin Valley out of first, handed the Raiders their first loss, and now here's YO. Playing great. They get Octorara in at Glen. Braves coming off a win. Won last week, beat Northern Lebanon, scored 28. Had a defensive touchdown. And Octorara, I think, is bubble-ish for Districts 4A. They might be the first team out, or they're right around the bubble. Playing this schedule will help the Braves. what are they? Are they 500? Are they 4-4? But playing YO, playing LS, playing Twin Valley, and all of their power ratings is going to help Octorara. So Braves still kind of playing for a district spot, which would be a nice reward for them because they've played really well despite playing this hammer schedule. So YO here. They have LS next week at home, which could be for the section championship outright. Still a lot to decide in Section 4, as you will see in a second. But we'll go Spartans here. YO over Octorara. Daniel Boone at Northern Lebanon. Blazers. Exhale. Birdsboro. Blazers got a win last week. Snapped a 14-game losing streak, dating back to last year, obviously. They beat Donegal 7-6. Missed extra point. Cost the Indians a tie. I don't know where it goes from there, but Boone hangs on. Not a lot of O for either team in that game last week. A lot of defense. Boone scrapes by. They got just enough to get a win, so they're feeling better about things. And now they get to pack up the bus and go to Fredericksburg to take on the Vikings, Northern Lebanon. And I've written this, and I saw them. They're pesky, and they have playmaker kids and the Ryan brothers. Good special teams, but they have not had much offense this year. Miles Watson is back running the ball. I think he had 80 plus on the ground last week. But they just don't score a lot. Boone didn't score a lot last week, but got a dub. I have Boone circled here on the road, a grass game for the Blazers, I know. But I'm going to ride their Mo, and they still have the Moyer kid and the Hefner kid and the Delisant kid, and I think that they can go up top here if they need to. So I'll go Blazers over Vikings. Elko at Donegal, old school LL game. These two were in the same section for whatever, 20, 30 years. So Donegal and Elko have played a lot of tackle football games. Elko, I want to say they're bubble-ish in 4A for districts. They need a hot finish and probably help to get in. Donegal, I hope they're healthier. I never really check on injuries. You know, there's no injury report in high school. It's not the NFL. And most of these guys aren't going to tell me on the record what kids are hurt and not playing, etc. But it's been widely reported that Donegal's had some injuries, so we'll see if any of these guys are back. Indians get a home game, home turf. They need some home cooking, and they'd love a fast start just to kind of get rid of these vibes from the last couple of weeks. I have Elko circled. Again, the Raiders just seem to win these games. They just seem to find a way in these games where it's kind of a little more evenly matched, and they're not playing like a YO or a Twin Valley or an LS, but they seem to win these games. And they know that there's a potential week 11 out there for them. So I'll go Raiders here. Fingers crossed the Indians get some kids back on the field. But for pick purposes, Elko over Donegal. Twin Valley at LS. Hello. We were at LS this week for the show. Stay tuned for the roundtable this week with some LS highlights and interviews. Mega game still. Twin Valley has the loss. They lose to YO last week, but still major game here because there's implications. LS is now tied for first with YO. They're at YO next week. LS is 8-0, tons of balance, playing great. Seems like they score between 42 and 56 points every week. They get a defensive touchdown every week. I think they have 5 pick-6 plays this year. Weichler had one last week. House had one last week, I believe. LS has been really, really good, dynamic. So has Twin Valley, and I know they lose, but they have fun stats all over. Evan Myers approaching more records. I think he can become the second leading passer in Berks history in this game. And I think he's coming up on a rushing number, maybe 2,000 rushing yards. I know he's coming up on 1,000 rushing yards this year. So Myers and House, terrific quarterback matchup here. I have LS circled. I know I picked Twin Valley in August to win the section, and they still could because you got this game and you got LS-YO next week, and I'm not overlooking YO in week 9 here, but I'm going to ride the hot hand. and I've seen LS, and I love their balance. Should be a good matchup in the trenches. Both teams have big dudes up front. LS, like I said a minute ago, LS just seems to come up with these pick six plays, or they'll get a turnover at the right time. And LS only has 2 giveaways. That's it. And one of them was a pick in garbage time. So LS has been really good. Fun game, great game. Flip a coin, LS over Twin Valley. Section 5, Peckway Valley at Lancaster Catholic. Saw PV last week against Anvil on Thursday night. Braves put up a heck of a fight, scored 31, but ultimately just couldn't stop Anvil's running game, and Jonathan Shea ran wild. They got to go to Catholic here. Crusaders have been playing great. Way had another monster game last week, 244 and 4 touchdowns. Catholic looks pretty much safe on the 2 line in 2A for districts. And here's a fun fact. Peckway Valley is 1 spot out of the Eastern Conference AAA playoff game. So there's still 2 more weeks there. I'm not going to go into what the Eastern Conference is. That would take 20 minutes. But the Braves are 1 spot out of a potential Eastern Conference playoff game, which would be the first postseason game in Peckway Valley history. So the Braves have plenty to play for here in the last 2 weeks. Tricky game here. Catholic's playing great. They're at Schuylkill Valley next week. So Section 5 could still be hanging in the balance then. So I'll go Crusaders here. Catholic over Braves. Kutztown at Columbia. Cougars 0-8 at Tide 0-8. Somebody's getting a win here, and that's a good thing. That's a lot to play for, and that should provide plenty of momentum for both of these teams. I wrote this. Kutztown's better than 0-8. They've been in games, shoulda, coulda beat Berks Catholic, running the ball a heck of a lot more like Kutztown here lately. Brendan Ackley's had a couple of 100-yard games back-to-back. Kutztown's kind of found it. They just haven't gotten the payoff with dubs. Columbia, and I'm not ripping on the Tide here, but they're kind of at the bottom of the league in everything. Points and offense and yards given up, and they've struggled. They don't have a whole lot of kids up front. And they're 0-8. I know they're at home. Kutztown's coming over. But I got the Cougars circled. I think they get their first dub. Kutztown over Columbia. Hamburg at Berks Catholic rematch. Speaking of Eastern Conference. Saints beat the Hawks last year in the Eastern Conference 3A game. They're both kind of bubble-ish for districts at this point. Hamburg, however, in the Eastern Conference rankings, they would be in. Hamburg would get an Eastern Conference 4A game. They're up a class this year. Hawks would be in. And BC's on the outside looking in 3A. So interesting game for playoffs. We'll see how it turns out. I got Berks Catholic circled. Rose, Gumby have been awesome 1-2 punch running the ball. And I know Shuey's having a really good year behind center for Hamburg. And they've done a lot of damage up top. Brady and Worley have been great. But I got BC at home, and they're still kind of sniffing a district spot. So, again, we'll see how that pans out. But I'll go Saints over Hawks, and we'll see if Hamburg stays in line to get an Eastern Conference game. Last game, Section 5, Friday night. Anvil-Cleona at Schuylkill Valley. Saw Anvil last week. Put up 41 on Peckway Valley. As mentioned, Jonathan Shea rushed for 188, 4 touchdown runs, and a TD catch, and 11 tackles, and a sack. And I think I saw him sweeping out the bleachers after the game. Seriously, what a player he is. Oh, my. Tricky trip, Leesport, Schuylkill Valley, alone in first in Section 5. Needs a win here to get to that Week 10 with Lancaster Catholic coming to town. Where all kinds of things could be right, and Panthers could win it outright. Panthers could end up in a tie. Not worried about Week 10 yet. Got the Panthers circled. They have to slow down Shea and Anvil's running game, which is really good. But a lot of weapons. Narwaki is 1,600 passing yards. Spots had 9 catches last week. Gerners has 7 touchdown catches, and he had 7 catches last week. So a lot of weapons for Schuylkill Valley on offense. I think if it's a shootout kind of a game, SV can win. Could be a good one, though. Schuylkill Valley over Anvil Cleona. 2 more Friday night games that are non-league. Reading at Oxford, the Hornets. Non-leaguer for the Red Knights. First time these teams will play in a game. Oxford out of Chesmont. Who did they beat? Did they beat Warwick early in the year? 12-0, I want to say. They're a 5-win team, and I have them circled at home. Reading, fun fact, right now, Reading with 2 wins would be in the Eastern Conference playoff game. In the 5A, 6A big school game, Reading would be in with 2 wins based on their power rating because all the teams ahead of them are in line to make their district playoffs. So Reading would be in. So we'll see if the Red Knights can cash in and get a playoff game in a couple of weeks. But I have Oxford circled. Hornets over Knights. Last Friday night game, New Oxford at Warwick. Warriors still hanging around a little bit in Section 3. They have 4 wins. Their defense has been good. Not a ton of but a lot of really good defense. They're the last team in right now in 5A. They are on the line. New Oxford is number 1 in 5A. They're undefeated. They've been really good. Fry is the quarterback, playmaker kid. 3 touchdown passes last week against West York. New Oxford shut out Cocalico earlier this year, 21-0. So they're legit. Very good team. I know they got to come to Lidditz, but I have New Oxford circled. Warwick's got to watch out, and they have the Barons next week. They are bubblish. We'll see what kind of finish they get. But for pick purposes, New Oxford over Warwick. Last game, Saturday matinee, Muhlenberg at Academy Park out of the Delaware Valley Conference in Sharon Hill. Mules go on the road coming off a shutout loss against Ephrata. Ephrata held Cameron Small, the LL leading rusher, to 62 yards last week. So they held him in check. Mules did not score. So they need a bounce back here against a 500 Academy Park team. I want to say they're 4-4, had a 2-game losing streak, but got a win last week. So they have a little mo. They're at home. Muhlenberg's got to make a road trip. Scuffling a tad coming off a shutout loss. So I have Academy Park circled. Saturday matinee, Knights over Mules. Week 9. Winners: Cedar Crest, Wilson, Manheim Township, Exeter, Governor Mifflin, Ephrata, Cocalico, Solanco, Central, Wyo, Boone, Elko, LS, enjoy that, Lancaster Catholic over PV, Kutztown, Berks Catholic, Schuylkill Valley, Oxford, New Oxford, and Academy Park. Week 9 and all of its gloriousness should be fun. Friday night, I will see you in Denver. I'm going to make a return trip to Cocalico to check out Eagles Weiser. Weiser can win Section 3 outright with a win. Cocalico can get no worse than a tie with a win and create some havoc. Good stuff. Lancaster Online all weekend for the coverage, box scores, photo galleries, game stories. I'll get you stats. I'll get you helmet sticker winners. And before you know it, it'll be week 10. And before you know it, we'll be talking about playoff brackets. Are you ready? Okay, thanks for tuning in. It's the Huddle LL League Football Podcast, sponsored by Auto House of Lancaster. Enjoy week 9. It should be fabulous. And I'll catch you back here soon. Thanks.